We're closing the school today, so just keep that mindful. Details on our website, 999thebay.ca.
This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
I try my best to find something good out of council meetings over and over and over again, and each and every time I find myself being let down a little bit. We have a group of people in a room right now that can't seem to get it together, and I'm being kind when I say that. You can't keep changing your mind. And if you keep changing your mind, you can't call out everybody else for changing your mind. Case in point, the indoor turf facility is a gift that just keeps on giving that will not seem to go away. And last night, your city councilors decided to change their mind again. And it got to one point where one city councilor said, I'm sick and tired of this. We keep pushing this down the road. Nobody can make a decision. This should have been done a long time ago. That's the same city councilor who has been on council for years and said no to the price tag 3 years ago of $35 million, but yet was the one to put forward another amendment, this time for $38 million. Let's set the stage. Last week, City Council decided that once administration brought the new financial plan for the indoor turf facility at the fancy new location next to the auditorium and the community and the Canada Games Complex, that price tag $44 million with the interest $54 million. Council last week went, wait a minute, that's just too much money. We can't afford that. Can we please figure out a way to make it cheaper? Councillor Mark Bentz put forward an amendment last week to drop the cap of the indoor turf facility to $30 million. They approved that total. Last night, in the city council portion of the meeting, where they ratify the decisions from the week before and ratify the decisions that were made by this council, council decided to take out the indoor turf facility from the minutes to vote on it separately and let the games begin. And that they did. Back and forth for hours. There was a deputation last night, but I'm not even going to get into it because, to be frank, I'm getting a little tired of people who are not engineers or professionals telling engineers and professionals how to do their job. At the same token, I'm getting a little tired of people suggesting that these price tags are ridiculous and how could they be so high when yet we forget that this city council and the councils before are the ones that chose what the standards are for buildings that the city makes. Net zero, accessibility, all kinds of standards that this council and previous councils have decided is the bare bones of what we're going to do when we build a building. That's why prices go as high as they do. But we forget that. Instead, we have a deputant last night suggesting that there's something crooked going on and that we're padding the numbers of an indoor turf facility to make it unaffordable. That's not what happened. And it's not what continues to happen. Council made the decision to come up with standards, and those standards is what administration works from. Administration doesn't make up numbers. And if you suggest that they do, you're suggesting that they're crooked. They're not. They do their job. They're professionals. So the $44 million that was brought to council last week got changed to a cap of $30 million. And then we get to the amendment last night, ratified by city council, and someone hit the brakes. Once again, we start nitpicking all of the verbiage that's in that ratification, like the size of the field. Somehow, some way, somebody said, there's no possible way you can build this building for $30 million with the same size field. Wait a second. Weren't you all at the meeting last week when you said you could? And now all of a sudden the field size becomes an issue. So back and forth we went. And again, and again. And what happens if we do this? And what happens if we do that? The $30 million now gets voted on and it loses. This is the $30 million cap that they approved last week, and it loses. And then comes Councillor Gertuga. He wants to increase the $30 million cap to $38 million because, I talked to contractors and there's no way it could be built for $30 million. Yet the contractors and or engineers that are part of the city staff and the consultants, they know nothing. But the guy that you talk to over coffee, he knows a little better. So we should probably add $38 million to it. What was the point of all of this? What was the point of saying yes to $30 million last week and raising it to $38 million, which, by the way, is only $6 million less than the original financial plan that the administration brought to you? Back and forth we went. The tensions started to show up. God bless City Clerk Krista Power for trying to keep these people in line last night. Mm-hmm. She did an exceptional job of that, as she always does. But here we are with councillors again, raising points of clarification. There is no such thing, of which Clerk Power had to point out countless times there are no points of clarification. There's a point of privilege or a point of order. You can't make up points. But they did. And it wasn't even the new counselors that were doing it. It was the veterans. So here we are now voting on verbiage change and the amendment of the amendment of the amendment that says we need to exclude the field size in what we're going to change in this building. The field size has to stay the same. So they voted in favor of that. 7-6. Split vote again. Now we go back to the vote on the amendment, which is the referral excluding the field size.
Wow.
Back and forth we went. Now here's where it got interesting. This is where Councillor Gatuga said, we could have had this built by now. We've been pushing this down the road for 10 years. Councillor Gatuga, newsflash, you've been on all of those terms of council that kicked it down the road. You were also one that voted against this building in August of 2020. And now you bring forward an amendment to the amendment to change the price from $30 million to $38 million, but you can't figure out how we can't get it together. You, sir, were on that council 3 times to push this down the road. And here we are again. Councillor Bentz then brings forward the following. If we don't do this now, we're not going to do it. If you want to play, let them play. But what we're asking them to do now is take a building, strip it down, have just a field, have 0 opportunities to host tournaments and or otherwise because the building just got smaller. And now you want to raise it back up again to $38 million. What's the point? All of a sudden, we're starting all over again. So here's what happened. Back and forth we went. Now we're back to the amendment of the amendment to change the $30 million to $38 million. And Councillor Brian Hamilton shows up again and drops this bomb. We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, maybe a little over a month ago, when I was digging through some of the reports of things that are coming in infrastructure. God bless Councillor Hamilton for pointing something new out that, in my opinion, completely shocked both administration and council when he brought up the plans to twin pad Port Arthur Arena. That's right. There are long-term plans to bulldoze Port Arthur Arena and put 2 rinks there instead of 1. How much does that cost? Probably close to $40 million. So Councillor Hamilton's question was, if we build this, will we be able to afford the twin pad at Port Arthur Arena? No commentary about it. No discussion. Just a blank check. So Gertuga's $38 million amendment of the $30 million amendment that was from the $44 million original plan from administration now gets passed. That is ridiculous. This is the same group of people that said yes to $30 million last week, and this week, $38 million. Why not just leave it at 44? There is no possible way this building is getting built for $38 million. Now, here's the breaking news of all of this that nobody is talking about. That $38 million does not include the cost to move the baseball diamond that is there. It does not include the cost of the new road that's going there. And it also doesn't add in the cost of additional parking on the site. Those things are extra. $3, $4, maybe $5 million worth. Now, all of a sudden, we're back up to $44 million. This council has this problem. And the problem is there has to be some backdoor deals going on future projects or future decisions to get people to change their votes this often. For Councillor Gatuga to come up with another $8 million for this building, by the way, the one he said no to 3 years ago, for him to come up with $38 million and people to change their vote to support it, there's something else going on. There are side deals somewhere going on. At the end of the day, your council, again, changed their mind in a week. And now you're about to buy a $38 million soccer facility for less than 5% of the population. These are the people that you need to watch and pay attention to because they're spending your money. And it's money that you don't have. Councillor Hamilton told me last night he's out. This is enough. This is a council that is looking for a shiny new toy and will do whatever they need to do to push it through so that their name gets on the building. It's working, but it's not over yet. Here's the fun part about it. The environmental assessment of that site is still not finished. It's barely started. This could all get blown up again in January. The decision comes back in March for them to push it forward. Council last night suggested, hey, why don't we skip the whole process and just put out an RFP and get this thing built? Really? Without the environmental assessment being done? Something is not right. Your council changed their mind again. Congratulations. For the 15th time, you've bought yourself an indoor turf facility for nowhere near what Soccer Northwest suggested in their expertise is going to be worth. Here's the best part. Councillor Bentz challenging the deputant yesterday, who went on and on and on about how they know better than the engineers and the designers of this building, that there's no way it's going to cost that much. It's going to cost way less than that. And Mark Bentz said to the deputant, are you going to cover the difference when it does? His response was, absolutely.
I heard that. Yeah.
Put that to the bank. Write that down. Soccer Northwest will cover the difference because this should be 20 or 25 million, not 38. So when it comes in at 38, is Soccer Northwest going to come up with $13 million to cover it?
How is that possible?
Well, he said it. Don't say things in council chambers that you don't mean, because those things will come back to bite you one day, and we remember everything. City Council, get it together. Start working together. You're starting to look silly, and it's only the first year of the term.
Wow, John, thanks for that. That was pretty in-depth. I appreciate all of that. We're also going to give you a recap of this City Council Roundup on our website, 999thebay.ca, in just a bit. I do have a question now. I'm a bit confused, and I don't know if you
so
have
is your council.
Right. The public is probably... I'm just more confused. I'm a black and white guy.
Yeah.
Where are we with this? So a report's coming in March. Is there going to be another change to this?
Well,
or is this being built at $38 million?
Now, the experts, who are the engineers, the designers, the contractors, and such, along with the city people that made the standards and the net zero and all of those things, are going to come back with a price tag in March of a new building for $38 million. They may come back in March and say, we can't build this for $38 million.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Here we are.
This is not a done deal.
It's not a done deal.
Not a done deal by a stretch.
Okay.
Not even a little.
We're at the end of November. Now 4 months is going to pass, and this could change again.
There's still an environmental assessment that has to be done. Yeah.
But where I am with this, and I think the majority of the public, it's yes or no. Either you build it or you don't. But there's so many meetings of this nature, and now it's changed again. I'm so confused by this process.
I actually had to reach out to a counselor last night during the meeting and say, I pay attention. I have no idea what you're even voting on now. Because
an amendment to an amendment. I don't get
so
it.
many times.
All
and
right.
to see the frustration on the clerk for having to explain these things over and over again, it's really tiring. And the later these meetings go, the worse the decisions are. Because now we just want to hurry up and get it over with. This is a long way from being built. And keep in mind that there is no way we're breaking ground on this next year.
No, not
it's
at this.
the year after.
Yeah.
before it's designed and otherwise. So all of those kids that were outside chanting, "Let us play," last year, you still have 3 years before you're going to be able to, if this city council doesn't push it to yet another term where people will make even more crazy decisions about whether or not to build it.
I'm glad you brought up the point of the additional costs when it comes to roads and parking, because if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Agarwal posed that question.
Yeah.
And then she was quite shocked at the answer.
Nobody realized that it didn't
Right.
include those things. Nobody's talking about that stuff. Nobody's talking about the extras, Danny. And this is where it really gets troubling, because these counselors are supposed to be the experts and are supposed to know these things. But none of them told you that moving that beautiful baseball diamond is going to cost some money, and additional parking is going to cost some money. And so is a different access road to that facility going to cost money. And that's not included in the 30 million or the 38 million or the 44 million. It's not included.
Is there a spot over at Chapels?
You know, we had this idea once that we'd build a building at Chapels, but, you know, we threw that in the garbage.
Then there was one on Golf Links. I'm sorry.
And that one is still cleared, ready to go.
Yeah.
But that was private, and we can't go there.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
All right.
And it's ridiculous to suggest that this council needs to hurry up and make a decision when half of the people at that table had this in front of them for 10 years. And now the price tag is 45% more than it was back then.
I'm embarrassed I didn't know that last night this was part of the agenda again. I thought after last week they were going to come back in March.
But they had to ratify it. So that happens in City Committee of the Whole, and then there's the City Council portion where they rubber stamp stuff and this is the law. Well, that's where it got pulled out last night, and we started all over again, and we've changed our mind for the third time.
So one more question, and then we got to go.
Yeah.
We don't hear any more about this facility now until there's a decision in March or until this assessment is done? That's it?
That's it. It's
All
now,
right.
It should be now off the table. But guess what you have a chance to do now? Call your counselors. Tell them what you think, and listen to them try to explain and justify how we're spending this much money when we have this many things in front of us that we need the money for.
All right.
Tough one.
There's your City Council Roundup for this Tuesday. John, thank you so much. And another reminder again, a recap of your Roundup will be on our website, 999thebay.ca. The video, everything will be there. All right? John, thank you.
Oh, thank you. And you know, the worst part about it, Danny, is I missed the entire Vikings game last night for this.
Well,
it was the edge of my seat the whole time. I couldn't even flip over to check the score. I'm kind of glad I didn't.
And sorry for your loss.
Yeah, they stunk too.
Yeah.
8:27 News is next. Tom Cochran is on the Bay.